We close out the minor arcana with the valet, knaves, pages, princesses in the Thoth, or as I've renamed them for the SKT, the heralds. Pages in tarot are messengers. In the 4 stages of human life, pages correspond with childhood and adolescence, but no matter what age, we're getting apprentice, student of life, rook or rookie vibes. Hence, in the first and Vitruvian editions of the SKT, we had rooks, the chess piece, to indicate that rook energy of the pages. In modern interpretations of the pages, we read decidedly feminine energies where the pages are said to represent women rather than men, and even with the Rider-Waite-Smith, contemporary readers see 4 youthful women. However, Waite himself describes these 4 pages as youthful men. Historically, the pages, or valet, depict young boys. Here is a squire, someone in a subordinate position to the querent, or an apprentice, someone who represents future potential. This will be our last time reviewing the 10 Sephiroth, so let's make it count. Yahim, the internal masculine pillar of mercy, constructed by the sustaining of Chokmah, Haksad, and Nizak, is astral light manifesting as force, expansion, and volition. Boaz, the internal feminine pillar of severity, constructed by the sustaining of Bina, Givira, and Hod, is astral light manifesting as form, reception, containing, and experiencing. The middle pillar, or pillar of inner equilibrium, constructed from the emanation of Ketor, the concealed emanation of Dat, Tifrit, Yesod, and Malkuth, is the astral light that forms a spiritual fulcrum, bringing into conscious perception, force, and form. Now pause the video here to get a good look and absorb what you're seeing on screen. Resume when ready. Keter is the numinous void, the first expression of divine will, presided over by Archangel Metatron, chief of the angelic hosts, wearer of the crown, writes Arthur Green in Keter, the Crown of God in Early Jewish Mysticism, published by Princeton University Press. The Ein Sof, the infinite or nameless being, likened to the Tao, transmutes the 10 Sephiroth into the Ein, which is the cosmic womb, to create the universe. The aces here represent unborn ideas. Chokmah, the primordial Torah, the Sephirah of wisdom. This is knowledge of the holy things. This is God's agent in creation. It is the first degree of conscious intellect. Thus, the Tarot 2s are the first point of coming into being, of realized existence. The 2s emanating of Chokmah are about the potential of what is. This is also the realm of the Tarot Kings, which in the SKT are titled the Archangels. Here we find among the angelic hosts the keepers of these secrets, the mysteries. The raw force of Chokmah is refined in Bina, and refined becomes understanding. This is the palace of mirrors, reflecting pure divine light, and likewise the 3s in tarot designate an esoteric multiplication. Here is where you witness the work product of creation. This is deductive reasoning. The queens in tarot in the SKT, titled the shields for their protective, defensive magic, signify a womb in which understanding and the various forms of creation are cultivated. Through Dot, the offspring emanation of Chokmah and Bina, a state of divine union, we cross the abyss and descend from the supernal triangle, those 3 upper Sephiroth. Haksed is the dwelling of the 4s, cultivation of mercy and grace. This is loving kindness. Express your devotion to the divine by demonstrating your devotion to humankind. The 5s in Givira designate strength. There's God's judgment here, a strict adherence to the laws for the establishment of justice. This is the realm of accountability expressed in the Tarot 5s. Tiferet is beauty and truth, Bodhisattva and messianic consciousness. As the realm of 6s, there's a divinely ordained harmony here, a symmetry and balance that we find in the 6s. Tiferet is also where the knights dwell. This is the alchemical active force for reconciliation, and in Tiferet, the conflicting forces of Hexad and Gevira are reconciled to produce compassion. We then cross the veil, or Pekereth, exiting the ethical triangle, those three center midpoints Tiferet illuminated on screen. The ethical triangle is where the will of God and the will of the human soul converge. Netzach is victory, triumph, and mastery. In other words, the sevens is about realization of the power to overcome obstacles. Netzach is the emanation of leading, a very practical energy of mobilization. Hod is the realm of the eights, its splendor. This is glory and gratitude, acknowledgement of your divine purpose, its internalized power at its full force and effect, where you recognize and yield to that divine purpose. In the Zohar, Netzach and Hod are the two halves of a singularity and the balancing scales of justice. Yesod is where all upper Sephirotic energies merge before it is channeled into Malkuth. Here is the life force of consummation and intimate bonds. Here is where you verify your convictions and your sense of life purpose. That which shall most fulfill you is validated. Netzach, Hod, and Yesod as a trinity represent the lower astral triangle or magical triangle, the center of gravity from which we channel out our vital forces. We activate the astral triangle within through ritual. We covered Malkuth in the tens. This is the physical plane, the fallen Sephira, and the wilderness to which Adam and Eve were cast after eating from the tree of knowledge. Malkuth is the emanation of the garments and vestments of the soul. What are the garments and vestments of your soul? Your thoughts, your speech, and your deeds revealed outwardly. This video lecture will cover the tarot pages, princesses, and in the SKT, the heralds. Illuminating on screen are the golden paths of light, the ancient path we take, journeying through the 10 Sephiroth as we study the Tarot Minor Arcana. This is the astral light described by Eliphas Levi, the divine or spiritual emissions that we need to master to learn transmutation, or the esoteric facet of it, transubstantiation. Malhut, the queendom, is represented by four colors: citrine, olive, russet brown, and black, where the pages or princesses are the divine messengers who bring to you the visions of the holy guardian angel. This is the sphere of the elements, so we find a divine messenger from each of the four elemental spheres. The four heralds are your first point spirit guides toward ascension, toward knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel, so that we might begin the ascension up the tree of life toward enlightenment, union with the divine consciousness. The Marseille valets were historically depicted as young men or male servants, personal attendants to the royal court. In these early continental decks, when used for fortune-telling, the Page of Wands signified a foreigner, the Page of Cups a blonde boy, the Page of Swords a spy, and the Page of Coins a brunette boy. Reversed, the Page of Wands is a bearer of news. The Page of Cups, reversed, warns of deception, a sycophant, someone being insincere. Page of Swords is an unexpected visitor or unexpected event, and the Page of Coins is someone wasteful, someone who overspends money or is materialistic. Fortune-telling approaches to the courts in the mid-20th century treats all four pages as representative of messengers bearing news, though in the 18th and 19th centuries, it was just the Page of Wands per Atea's card meanings that signified a messenger. In addition to signifying someone blonde or fair, Atea notes that the Valet de Coupe Page of Cups predicts a promotion, receiving praise and acclaim, success, gains, advancement in your social standing or in your community. The Page of Swords, according to Atea, is a warning card, letting you know that someone is really nosy and all up in your business in a sneaky kind of way. Atea talks a lot about card pairing. So, for example, if the Page of Swords shows up with the Lover's card, then a relative is going to marry someone you dislike. That's so specific. In short, the pages are modifiers because, for example, with the Four of Coins as a pair, the page predicts an unexpected present or gift, paired with the Tower, obstacles, a setback, minor problems that frustrate you, paired with the Five of Swords, a financial loss. To summarize and overgeneralize what Atea is saying about this brown-haired young man that is the Page of Coins, when surrounding cards give this page a positive meaning, it's auspicious and means good things in love, romance, and matters of the heart. Reversed, or if surrounding cards is giving it a negative meaning, it's about materialism, people behaving superficially, waste, unnecessary expenditures, and luxury. By the way, the version of the European tarot on screen is by Lecourt, printed in Paris circa 1890, which is nearly a clone of the Nicolas Conver tarot from Marseille circa 1760. Now let's take a look at the English occult deck by Waite-Smith. We're seeing a lot of symbolism in the clothing corresponding to the elements and background landscapes that are symbolic. The Page of Wands is a young man standing in the act of proclamation. The Page of Cups, a studious, pleasing, contemplative young man. This card, writes Waite, can relate to business affairs. The Page of Swords is the swift, active, alert, and lithe young man adventuring over rugged terrain. Wild clouds swirl all around him, echoing Atea and Marseille interpretations. This is a spy or spying on others, the Secret Service, or someone who works for the government. By the way, fun little tidbit. Reversed, the RWS Page of Swords can portend sickness or someone ill-prepared for the challenges ahead. The Page of Pentacles is a young man who is slower in demeanor, methodical, scholarly, and possibly excellent at business or civil management. Oh, and Waite's reversed meanings attributed to this card are pretty much identical to what Atea says. While Waite specifies that these four images are of young men, Crowley's princess cards evolve from the historical depiction of the valet, knaves, or pages as young boys, garçons. Here, they're non-reigning feminine royals, destined to inherit the powers of their corresponding element or suit. Let's study the Princess of Wands and Princess of Swords side by side, since they're the two pages with their backs turned toward us, facing away. The Princess of Wands is the fuel of fire, writes Crowley. This is chemical or alchemical attraction, then combustion. She's unclothed to signify that she's free, liberated. The flame she's leaping from is in the shape of the Hebrew letter Yod. Crowley likens what's going on here as the dance of the virgin priestesses of Vesta, who tends to the sacred fire. The Princess of Swords is the earthy, see the green sylph part of air, see the yellow atmosphere. This is that volatile process of an idea coming into formation, where the Princess of Wands is a virgin priestess of Vesta, the sacred hearth. Here the Princess of Swords is Artemis or Minerva. There's also the suggestion of a Valkyrie. The Princess of Swords has a lot of practical knowledge. She can be a troublemaker, making waves in the world around her, and can often be a polarizing or controversial figure. The Princess of Cups and Princess of Discs, the two passive elementals, are facing toward the onlooker. The Princess of Cups is the earthy, see how she's green, part of water, the blue around her. She is the emotional and spiritual force that supports life. The symbols at the ends of her flowing robe are crystals to symbolize her alchemical process, crystallization. Crowning the Princess of Cups is a swan, which in Thelema is the bird of life, identified by the word Om. Om, says Crowley, is the syllable of the primordial creation process. Those who identify with the Princess of Cups are gracious, sweet, kind, and tender in character. They live in a world of romance and dreams, and on the negative side, might not have a strong grasp on reality. The Princess of Discs over on the right is symbolic of alchemical transfiguration. You are witnessing her changing from one state into a more beautiful, more divine, more spiritual state. She was Earth, but she's Earth transforming into something more exalted. She's pointing her scepter downward at the ground, and the precious diamond symbolizes the Sephira Ketor, the crown, pure light that is now being pierced into the darkest and deepest of the elements. Around her is the sacred grove, for the Princess of Discs is a priestess of Demeter. Crowley implies that she's been fertilized where her body bears the secret of the future. Crowley might just be quite preferentially partial to this card because of the way he takes his time and effort describing the Princess of Discs. Her character is, quote, too various to enumerate. One must summarize by saying that she is womanhood in its ultimate projection. In every case, her attributes will be pure in themselves. The fruit of the philosophy of Thelema is realized when you meditate upon this card. You'll recall Crowley's reconciliation of the I Ching and the Tree of Life. The diagram, titled The Chinese Cosmos, equates Ein Sof in the Kabbalah to the Tao. Since the knights in the Thoth, or Tarot Kings, correspond with Chokmah in the masculine pillar of mercy, their I Ching correspondence is divine, absolute Yang. The queens reign in the Sephira Bina on the Tree of Life, which corresponds with absolute Yin in the feminine pillar of severity. The four princes, or the tarot knights, are the Tiferet, which according to the diagram corresponds with the trigram fire. Malkuth is where we find the four princesses, or the tarot pages, which corresponds with the trigram earth. But then you'll recall that Crowley also assigns hexagrams, not just trigrams, from the I Ching to the court cards. We previously covered the hexagram correspondences for the Thoth Knights, or what's more popularly associated with the kings. 4 more of the 64 hexagrams are assigned by Crowley to the queens, and 4 to the princes, or tarot knight cards. The pages are assigned the 4 hexagrams from the I Ching Book of Changes that you see on screen, which means 48 remaining hexagrams from the 64 aren't directly assigned to the tarot. I went in a different direction for I Ching correspondences. I assigned a trigram rather than a hexagram, one of the I Ching building blocks or elements, to each card. The heralds in the SKT are enchanted to be spirit messenger cards. They're emissaries from a different realm or different level of your own consciousness, your superconsciousness coming through. You'll always recognize a court card page by the scroll bottom, front, and center. I operate the pages as if they're metaphysical envelopes, so you need to open the letter, unravel that scroll, pull an additional card for the message, and figuring out who is sending you this message is just as significant and meaningful as figuring out what the message is. If you pull the Herald of the Earth, Page of Orbs, Pentacles, a divine consciousness or spirit of the earthly realm or of prosperity, wealth, abundance is coming through, perhaps an ancestor. That subsequent card you pull is the message this herald messenger is bringing to you from that higher spirit entity. Say that the card you pull is the Six of Scepters, Wands. This spirit will ensure that you prevail, will bless you with the victory. In closing, when the Page of Wands appears in a reading, dare to be seen, dare to arrive. Be decisive and start that passion project already. Consider advanced career development. Try something new. The Page of Cups is an intuitive, compassionate, empathetic character, someone whose faith is spiritually rewarded. In ancient Egypt, the turtle was associated with the underworld, and in many cultures of antiquity, East and West, turtles were used for medicinal purposes. The animal symbolism iconic in the RWS is the fish and the chalice. And in both the RWS and Thoth, we see the symbol of the lotus blossom. I read the Page of Cups as someone artistic, really blessed with creative talent, and since creativity and intuition go hand in hand, also someone with strong psychic gifts. The Page of Swords will kick up a storm to be a mover, a shaker, a change maker. You will expand, you'll conquer, you'll tread fearlessly where others fear to go. When the Page of Swords shows up, go on the quest. The Page of Coins, Pentacles, Discs, or Orbs, whichever suit name is your choice, is the hardest working page and most productive. When this card comes up in a reading, hard work is going to pay off. This is someone of academic excellence, someone who's great at research, writing, good at bringing down to earth and into solid form that which was otherwise without form. And that concludes our card-by-card study of the minor arcana. Next up, the majors.